Ladies and gentlemen,
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Friday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online on YouTube or Twitch. I need to start saying that more. We do have a Twitch as well. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're in for.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Well, we'll definitely recap what was called a game last night, as well as the another hockey game that was not even a real game. But we'll break down the All-NBA defense team, which was announced yesterday, as well as a team that locked in their interim coach, some college football news, the new playoff seeding that will take place starting this season, some miscellaneous basketball stories. We'll have our buddy Chris Flell join us at 8 o'clock, and then we'll make you some money with our boy Bolt Brady at 8:30. Plus, we'll wrap up the show talking a little Saturday night's main event, what we're watching this weekend, preview the 559 fights that's taking place at the Visalia Convention Center tomorrow night with our boy Thomas. And just to have some fun, feel free to text or call in this morning with your, if you're a wrestling fan, Saturday night main event results, what you think, who's going to win, any curveballs of some crazy stories, as well as your NBA or hockey picks for tonight and tomorrow at 661-842-2000. But game 2 of OKC and Minnesota, which I was expecting a better game.
You know, this actually was a lot better than I feel like the score dictates. Because this got pretty close late. Let's not pretend like the Wolves didn't make a push. If they had any bit of a good game from Julius Randle, they may have pulled this off.
Well, that's why they didn't put him back in the fourth.
Absolutely, because he couldn't shoot. He went 2 for 11 throughout the first 3 quarters, and Coach Finch said, yeah, we're going to sit you down. We're going to put Alexander Walker in, who was pretty much hitting when they needed him to. Again, we see a Minnesota Timberwolves team that probably just underperformed in the worst time. And let's also not shy away from the fact that this was the game where SGA was awarded his MVP trophy right in front of his teammates who were pumped for it. They came in with a great head on their shoulders and just a great sense of confidence after watching their leader win that award, which they said throughout the broadcast, it is a team award. If this team doesn't make it to 68 wins this year, maybe they drop down to around 60 like the Cavaliers did. Maybe SGA doesn't win this award. Maybe it goes to Jokic for the great statistical year he had. But at this point right now, the Thunder are just proving to everybody why they're the number 1 team in the West. And if again, I'm not shying away from I still am not on Stephen A. Smith's side that this could potentially be a blowout or a walk away for the Thunder. I think the T-Wolves will make at least an effort to win these next 2 games at home, but you just need a better game out of Julius Randle, and that's the biggest part.
Yeah, that's what really was the issue. The first game, it was Randle going off, and it was just pretty much him in the game 1. And then game 2, everyone else shows up and except him. So it was, hopefully they figure it out. And I'm pulling for them to take both games at home and make this a series. But I should have thought SGA was going to get his award last night when I made my picks. I thought Minnesota was going to come out pissed. But this was SGA after the game talking about his performance.
Early, I just wanted to lean on my teammates. I thought about coming out and forcing the first couple shots, but I was like, nah, it's probably not the way to go. I wanted to just let the game come to me. Like I said, lean on my teammates, play through them, play off of them. I think my first basket was like a back cut from Hart. So I just didn't want to force the issue, let the game come to me. And then, I'm pleased with the way we guarded tonight. We held them to 100 points, I think. And obviously they're a really good offense. So yeah, we did the job defensively.
Honestly, they did. And watching this guy play, it really does look like Kobe, or at least young Kobe. But this entire team, I think, needs to focus a little bit more when going away and going into Minnesota. I think you're going to be dealing with a completely different monster. I would expect Minnesota as well to probably lean more on guys like Naz Reid rather than guys like Rudy Gobert. Although Rudy is a defensive stud for you, I think you need more of an offensive output from this team to at least get them back into this series. So I would see them probably leaning more on guys like Naz Reid, and they need also guys like Dante DiVincenzo to start getting hot as well, because when he plays well off the bench, it's really hard for them to beat him.
Well, I listened to coach or former coach Malone after the game. He was talking about, this series, and he also threw some I wouldn't say kicks, but he threw in, I don't think SGA should have gotten the MVP, that he's going to lean on his boy Joker, which we've covered several different times. I think SGA deserved it, and the way this team is playing right now in the postseason, it just proves it. And I'm going to go back to what we had talked about. I believe it was Snacks that brought up last week when they hadn't announced it yet. And do you think that would have swayed the decision if they would have pulled that game out and sent OKC home?
No, I think they had already planned on it being SGA. I don't know why they waited a little bit longer. I really don't. But no, I genuinely don't believe that comes in as a factor. I think that that's a great storyline, and maybe that's why they waited, was just to get more hype around the game. You know what I mean? Get more viewers to watch it, because when you think that you're playing for something like that, it's a completely different game. But no, I genuinely believe the success that the Thunder had this year, the success that SGA had this year, although statistically Joker is a stud, I just can't say that anybody was more valuable to their team than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was to this Thunder team.
And Coach Malone had this to say on what Minnesota needs to do to turn this series around.
If I'm Chris Finch, if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm finding a way to be more aggressive and not let him get so easily to his spots, so easily to that mid-range shot. Minnesota used quite a bit of zone tonight. I think they can get a little bit more aggressive with him, make him give the ball up early, and make him work that much harder, because he had 38 tonight, and it was a really calm, cool, and collected 38 points.
I mean, he's absolutely right. You have to do something to slow him or Jalen or Chet down, because that's really the unsung heroes here.
Seeing that guy flex and get a technical late in the second half.
Chet Holmgren is one of the funniest guys to watch play basketball, in my opinion. And it's kind of like watching Joker, because most players, you would assume that they would want to go faster. You want to get around a guy faster. Chet is actually one of those players that you need to play slower. You need to actually body people up and just play slow. And that's not necessarily calling him slow. It's just when he plays at his own pace and actually dictates how he wants to play, because this guy could also size you up from outside and take a three on you.
It was just a comedy.
He really is.
Watch him flex.
It's just, yeah, especially.
And that's the point where I thought Minnesota was starting to get sluggish and give away the game, because they did have a chance late in the game to get it down to single digits. But after that dunk and he flexed on him, and then the Timberwolf dude shoved him, I was like, all right, now it's just, backyard ball now. Now they're just giving up. And I hate superstars that do that, that'll just give up halfway through the game and start getting – it reminds me of Draymond. When Draymond's losing, he throws these little hissy fits where he starts pushing and getting technicals and just unnecessary fouls. But to game 3 is tomorrow. So it's win or go home type thing. Minnesota needs to pull at least one game out of this series. I would expect 2. But you think if OKC wins game 3, it's over?
Well, yeah, statistically, I would say it's over.
You can't go down 3.
No, 3-0, and you try to come back from that. I don't think the Timberwolves have the skill to do that. But, I mean, again, I, like you, expect them to come out tomorrow and win at least the first game in Minnesota. Whether they can continue that in game 4 and keep the momentum going back to Oklahoma City is really going to be the test here. Oklahoma City away is a completely different team. I wouldn't say that they're worse, like in a sense of like that much of a difference, but I do believe that they're a different team. And I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are a completely different team at home. So that's where I think this is going to get interesting. I know we've seen a great game out of Julius Randle and a great game out of Anthony Edwards, but like you said earlier in this segment, we need the entire team of the Timberwolves to really get in sync and play well offensively together. And then we're going to see the full potential of what this series could actually be, because genuinely, I don't think we've seen it yet. I think game 1 for the Timberwolves was ugly. I think game 2 it had flashes of being decent, but like you said, there are moments where the Thunder pulled away and we're up by 24. That's where I really give them credit, is going into halftime, they were getting walloped. And then in quarter
Stupid
4,
turnovers and
then quarter 4 comes around and Minnesota starts getting into their usual gear, and they start clicking, and it actually looks like the Minnesota Timberwolves team that fought their way here. So that's why I'm saying I need to see the full team actually in sync, which I think you'll see in game 3.
that was with like around 6 minutes left in the fourth. Started to push it back, and I was like, all right, maybe you put Randall back in. Maybe he starts hitting ones, and no, they just left him on the bench. I was like, okay.
I think Finch had a game plan going in, saying, no, we're going to ride the hot hands here, which is also why you didn't see Rudy Gobert back in the game late, who probably is the best option to guard a guy like Chet Holmgren. But here we are. You had Naz Reid on him, and Naz look like, even though Naz is a very tall man, still looks a foot short to be guarding a guy like Chet.
Yeah.
So
he was the hidden name last night. He was the hidden star, because
absolutely,
I know Jalen went off too, but I mean, when they needed him, Chet really stepped up. But going over to the series I'm looking forward to is the game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, which is tonight, and you can catch it right here on ESPN Bakersfield. But I think, just in my opinion, I know the Knicks are a good team on the road, but they need to slap them back. They need to come out and play like they did in the first 3.5 quarters and come back swinging. And I'll get to a Stephen A clip, because I know this one's gonna aggravate you.
Exactly,
but it's Friday, so we're gonna have some fun first. But this is what Chiney had to say about what the Knicks have to do to pull the game out in game 2.
The New York Knicks, they need to maintain their empire state of mind. Their mind needs to be locked in during clutch time, because we saw some uncharacteristic, unforced errors. You think about the turnovers. They had 5 turnovers in the last 5.5 minutes of that game. They missed some crucial free throws that could have given them more separation, more distance. And of course, they lost the hot hand. You cannot do that, especially down the stretch. You mentioned those 6 of them in the fourth quarter. So if you look back, the New York Knicks, they have to have more lock-in mentality, and they cannot beat themselves, especially coming in at a deficit against the hottest Pacers team, the hottest offense in the NBA.
I don't know about that, but
no, I'd agree with her in terms of one of the hottest offenses in the NBA.
One of definitely.
First and foremost, and I hate when talking about the Knicks, it's such a cliche now saying the empire state of mind. Does everybody remember the last time the Knicks won a championship?
No,
you don't. Because it was 20 years before I was born. So what empire?
Was it late 70s?
What empire are we talking about?
Yeah, right.
The empire that's come and gone since then was Darth Vader's.
The Jordan days where he would just rip them apart.
We've had let's stop calling this the empire state of mind. Let's say the Knicks need to just play Knick basketball
and stay out of foul trouble.
Yes, and you need to keep guys hot. You need to keep guys like Jalen Brunson on the court for however long you need to. Now, again, we've criticized Coach Thibodeau. Well, that's a bad way to put it, but we do when it comes to the minute sharing of this team. But if they can handle it, then they can handle it. My point being, though, you'd have to slow down the Pacers. You have to keep them under 120 points, because that's really where all of the odds for some reason shift to the Pacers side. And actually, we got a text message from a listener who made a very good point. We all talk about the choke meme that Reggie Miller made and his celebration against the Knicks in '94. Yeah, they lost that series 4-3. So
hopefully it returns.
That's what I'm saying. So if you're a Knicks fan, you're actually proud. Well, I mean, if sports history deems to repeat itself as it usually does, you're probably actually pretty happy right now, because at this point you could go 7 and still win this series. It really just starts today. It's game 2. Just take this as we're 0-0 game. Game 1 was a wash. They got one over on us, but it doesn't count.
Even it up, go back to a best of 5.
Exactly.
But I'm going to go to this spoken Stephen A clip and what he had to say about, and just remember, he is a Knicks fan, but this is what he said about Halliburton.
I don't have to worry about how, folks are coming late to the party. I wanted the Knicks to draft Halliburton, Remember that. I wanted them to draft Halliburton instead of Obi Toppin. I think he's a damn good player. I think that he's a star in this league, but superstar status is reserved for the select few, and I don't view him that way. However, I know that he shows up in the clutch moment. He deserves our credit. He's a big-time player. I like him a lot. I've always said that, so I don't have to worry about how I'm being perceived in terms of what I've had to say about him because I've always celebrated him. Having said all of that, you're talking about big shots, right? And you're talking about how big shots qualify you as a star. Was Robert Horry a superstar? I'm saying when you bring up somebody that's got about 7 rings, when you bring up the Chauncey Billups of the world who hit big shots and stuff like that, there have been plenty of people throughout NBA history that were really damn good and hit big time shots, but they still weren't labeled a superstar.
I see his point. Don't get me wrong. I disagree.
I had him until you said
genuinely-
Robert Horry.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, again, that's like my comparison yesterday from Brock Purdy to Mark Sanchez, and I'm sure a lot of people weren't happy about that one either.
You lit it up.
But here's the thing. He has a point in that area that just being a clutch player doesn't necessarily make you a superstar. However, here's where I disagree. Tyrese is the face of the franchise, has been for the last couple years. This isn't the first year the Pacers have done this. They did this last year too. Everybody just forgets about that. They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to the Celtics, who then won the championship that year. And to be honest with you, I think this entire storyline of coming into this playoff series as voted as the most overrated star, quote unquote, by a anonymous poll of athletes, players, and other people from the Athletic, I think that already at least warrants the conversation of should he be one? Genuinely, I think that he's done enough this series because not only did he make clutch plays out of every series, beating Giannis Antetokounmpo, Donovan Mitchell in the Cavaliers, and now Jalen Brunson in the Knicks. Who else does he have to beat? We were talking about Anthony Edwards on the other side having to beat Steph Curry in order to be, the new face of the West at least, or at least face of the entire NBA. So what does Tyrese have to do in order to become a superstar? Because in my personal opinion, ain't nobody else on this team that looks like one. I love Pascal Siakam. Watched him since college. He played CSUB multiple times. Do I see him as a superstar? Not really. Star, sure. But Pascal's not making the plays that Tyrese Halliburton is. Tyrese Halliburton has been a stud on every team he's played for, including the Kings when they were still, when they had to figure out if they were going to keep De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Halliburton. And guess how that went? He didn't keep either of them. And now they're both absolute studs on the teams they play for. I think that we have to at least bring up the conversation that he should be a superstar.
I think he is.
I genuinely believe he is too. That's why I disagree. But I can see the point that Stephen A is trying to make here that making clutch shots isn't everything about making a superstar.
No, it's not. But he forgot to drop the rest of the stats he pulls. But we'll take a quick break. And like we said in the beginning, if you got some predictions or any questions for Mr. Bold Brady, who will be joining us at 8:30, if you've got any wagers that you're betting over this weekend, even if it's the Indy 500 that I'm hearing about down the hall all morning, tune or text it in 661-842-2000 right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Wake up.
Couple of curse words there. I didn't hear anything. Well, I mean, they cut it out. Obviously, spit it out. It was just like I was waiting for him. I was like, "Oh Lord, where is it? Where is it?" Welcome back to the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Before we get out of the NBA, the all defensive teams were announced yesterday, and obviously, Evan Mobley being the all defensive player of the year was the headline of that team, along with Dyson Daniel being the only two I believe that were on everybody's list. They were the only two that everybody voted for, at least for one of these teams. And then they were joined by Lou Dort, Draymond Green, and Amen Thompson of the Houston Rockets as the first team. All pretty much exactly who we thought they were going to be. The top 5 defenders in the league easily this year. And honestly, it really just goes to show because I think 3 of them, this is the first time that they have been voted onto the team, period, first or second. And obviously, yeah, Draymond Green is a mainstay on one of these teams every single
Daniels,
year.
Dort, and Thompson.
Yep. And Lou Dort is a absolute stud on the defensive side. This is very long overdue. The Thunder, if you really want to know, or if you really have been following, I should say, they have 2 guys on the defensive team because Jalen Williams made the second team and easily could have made the first out over Amen Thompson if you really looked at certain things. But I genuinely, looking at how defensively stout they've been all year, it doesn't really surprise me that they made the 68 wins.
Well, do you think I looked at the list and people's tweets and who they thought got snubbed, and the 5 that they thought got snubbed: OG,
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
Bam, Derek White,
Okay.
Giannis, and
Naturally.
SGA.
So, okay, yeah. SGA and Giannis, though, don't necessarily need to be on the all defensive teams. They're more, well, Giannis is always up there along with guys like Rudy Gobert and all that because he is very, very good on defense. But I think that just there have been a shift, or there has been a shift rather, in a lot of these players' mentalities of wanting to become better defensively, which is why you're getting a lot of the Lou Dorts and Amen Thompsons and all these guys because they're young and they're very agile and they're great at making steals and stuff like that. Because don't forget, a couple years ago, the NBA was getting a lot of criticism because
The same people.
Yeah, the first team was all guards, the first team was all centers and the second team was all guards. So where are we really going to draw the line? You know what I mean? And eventually a lot of these guys are going to get shifted down because a lot of these guys are getting better. I wouldn't say that Bam really deserved to be on there over any of the other big men that were chosen, especially in the second team. Because if you want to get into the second team, we had Jaren Jackson Jr., who was a first team last year. Rudy Gobert, always in the conversation. I mean, Jalen Williams, as we said, Zubac this year definitely deserved it after the breakout year he had for the Clippers. It's the way the team falls sometimes, and snubs happen every single year. So I think that this year the defensive teams are very, very well chosen, and I think they're all chosen for the right reasons.
And to wrap up NBA news, Denver made it official. They're not gonna hire outside. They locked in David Adelman, which was the assistant with Michael Malone for the past 8 seasons. And I mean, he finished off the season strong from what they were expecting anyways. 3 straight wins to close out the season, pushed the Clippers to 7 games and got out of there, and then pushed OKC. So, I mean, I'm not too shocked. I thought they would at least interview some people outside, but I mean, that's their guy. He's been there for almost a decade, so
Yeah,
it's not that big of a thing. But
you wouldn't be taking a huge step back, grabbing him and putting him as or making him the full-time head coach. But I don't know. I not to take any credit away from him, but I found this one to be a little weird only because throughout the playoff series, we didn't see a lot of him coaching.
Which has been the new thing in the NBA.
But see, that's what I'm kind of getting at here. Is it feels to me like this is a move by the Denver Nuggets, and I can't wait to ask Bolt Brady about this because he follows the Nuggets closer than we do. But does this not kind of feel like the Nuggets saying Jokic is our head coach next year too? Like this is kind of feeling like a Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, like, hey, you're the MVP and you do everything for us, so we're gonna have you pretty much help with the coaching too.
Yeah.
Like this is really kind of weird. I mean, I
They
know
didn't take any time or
no. And I mean, I am curious to see if this actually sprouts any criticism towards the Denver Nuggets or Jokic as a whole, because we give LeBron James a lot of grief for playing GM, quote unquote, with his team. Why would we not give grief to Jokic for the same reason? Because if he has a hand in at least the way the team is being coached, would that not mean that he has a hand in who's on the roster?
oh yeah, you know he does.
So where's the line being drawn here? That's just my point.
Well, let's we'll take our break and we'll get into this college football playoff seating that swapped over yesterday on the early bird special ESPN Bakersfield 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Going off that promo, how old am I? Have you seen Naked Gun?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank God. Well, the,
Look, man, calm down. I know I'm young, but
well
I'm
you,
not
you,
that
you
young.
pull that young card whenever and wherever, so I wasn't sure.
I don't pull any young card. I'm just 30. I'm sorry. I don't know what to
Oh
tell
my
you.
gosh. Well, college football playoff changes their straight seeding, which isn't too big of a shock after last season, but
I mean, yeah, especially after all the anger that came behind the seating and seating structure. I'm glad it's going this way because this is the only thing that really made sense. Now, for those of you who don't know, the college football playoff has now been expanded to 12 teams. The new rule that has just been passed will now have the top 4 teams in the nation will now get a first round bye. The way it happened last year was the top 4 ranked conference winners were the ones that got the first round bye. So this would technically eliminate teams like Notre Dame who don't play in a conference. They would never have been able to get a first round bye, even though they were successful in their games last year. So this would allow teams like Notre Dame, if they were in the top 4, they automatically would get a first round bye. However, I believe it said the top 5 conference winners will still be put into the playoff no matter what. So if you're the ACC champion, if you're the SEC champion, any of those, the Big 10, you will automatically get into the college football playoff. So you still technically get that benefit of winning if you win the conference. I like it better this way though, because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me, especially matchup wise, that a lot of these teams that did so well matched up against people that probably weren't very well.
yeah.
I mean, and we saw it a lot in the first round last year. SMU obviously being one of the biggest ones to highlight that they looked great and then went up against a powerhouse and got sent home super quick. Boise State obviously being another one that you could talk about, who I believe got a first round bye and then immediately was sent home as if they didn't even belong to be, or didn't even belong there at all. I mean, this will hopefully curb that.
Well, that changed it because what was it last season that all 4 teams that got the bye lost?
Yeah, or something of that nature. It's just,
So if going off of last year, number 9 Boise State got the 3 seed, number 12 Arizona State got the 4 seed, both conference champs. But under this new system, Oregon would get the 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Penn State
would have been
4
4.
would have gotten the buys. And that's what I was saying. Notably, all 4 teams that got first round buys in the playoffs lost their first game anyway.
honestly, if you were a team like SMU and Boise State from last year, and Arizona State for that matter, if we want to throw them in as well, you probably would have wanted it this way last year. Because, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is just me from what I've experienced with football and watching. The teams who usually get the first round bye traditionally come out flatter. So wouldn't it not be beneficial for you as Boise State now and Genty at the time had played against somebody in the first round, potentially won that game and built up more momentum to then go on and take a team like Oregon, who would be waiting for you? I think it would have been a better game. It would have been set up better. And honestly, down the line, we would have just gotten better football. So I think this is going to be a good move for college football. And I love seeing that the groups have been able to put this across so easily. This was done by the management team, which is, I believe, 10 different athletic directors, along with Notre Dame's athletic director. And they've all pretty much had the same comment saying, we have a responsibility to bring back good product to our constituents and obviously put the teams that deserve to be there in the right spots. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it.
I like this a lot. And then in other news as well in college football, this has been interesting. Since we already talked about Notre Dame, I'll just stay here. Notre Dame has had a couple stories come out in the last couple weeks that I've been noticing. We haven't really been able to get to a lot of them. I did mention that they have signed a long-term contract for rivalry games against the Clemson Tigers, which is going to be entertaining. They've also announced that their rivalry games against the USC Trojans might be ending for a while, if not forever. So we'll see how that goes. But this last one that just came out yesterday, apparently Notre Dame and the University of Wisconsin will be playing a game on Lambeau Field in 2026. I think this is going to be interesting. This is going to be the first time in a while that Lambeau has had a college football game on it. This game was supposed to take place in 2020, but had to be postponed, obviously, during the COVID situation. So this is now being lined up for 2026. Notre Dame will be the host team. They will be the home team for this one, even though Wisconsin, technically, in my opinion, probably should be the home team, being the team from Wisconsin. But they did get a chance to actually host a game on Lambeau Field a couple years ago as well. So I think this is just kind of the vice versa of this. But what do you feel about this, Sparky? Do you kind of like the fact that we're getting a blend of college ball on pro sports platforms, I guess?
Of course. I mean, I like the change-ups for it, and I think all of them are for the positive.
Mhm.
And the Notre Dame USC, that I think they'll return because that's a big game. But I mean, we'll see. They're going to keep tinkering with it, just like the NFL. I just wish they would find a middle ground and just stop tinkering with everything every offseason. But the one thing I do agree with the college football seating. I think the playoffs thing is the biggest that needed to be changed. But all these extra changes are. I know. I also read something about who was it? I'd have to look it up, but it was more college basketball that they're trying to tinker with the March Madness playoff brackets as well.
Oh, good Lord. Well, again, those always come under question just because the selection committee and stuff and where their intentions lie when it comes to picking a lot of these teams. But I like this, especially for football. I don't know. I like when pro football and college football unite. I think it's a really cool thing. This is going to be the third game collegiately to be played on Lambeau Field since 1983. Second time since I think it was 2016 was the last time it was on. It was LSU and Wisconsin. It was the game I was referring to earlier where Wisconsin was the home team. Still feel like Wisconsin should be the home team against Notre Dame, but that's just my personal opinion. But when you have this kind of interconnection, it's really interesting, especially when it comes to historic places, at least in the football world, like Lambeau Field. Like, imagine being a college player that maybe wasn't going to make it in the pros, but you got a chance to play on Lambeau. You made a Lambeau leap, even though you probably never play for the Packers or against the Packers. I think that's a really cool opportunity. And when you give college football, which honestly is the most unique environment in sports, in my opinion, like when you talk about the crowds and the fans and all that type of stuff and how unique each of them are and each group is every single year and how they change it up every year to be different for their school. It's so unique. There's nothing like it. And honestly, when you combine something like that in a professional football setting like Lambeau Field, this is going to be monstrous. I think this is going to be great. And it's two programs, one incredibly historic, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and the other being the Wisconsin Badgers, who have been fantastic in the last couple of years. So I think this is just going to be great football. And honestly, going forward, it's a really cool thing to see. I hope we see more of it. I like this.
We just got a text says, "Are you not going to bring up Florida or the Panthers?"
All right, we're getting to it. We're talking football first. Okay, I'm sorry. No, we'll talk about it right now. Florida Panthers won 5-0.
Yeah, it was a horrible game.
Bobrovsky is probably the best goalie in NHL playoffs right now. I've been trying to tell y'all, don't ride with the Canes. And what are you people doing? You're riding with the Canes.
What was funny is 2 nights ago, we had the Knicks and Pacers. It was a hell of a game, and the Stars game was just as close and tight. And then last night, both games, NHL and NBA, were blowouts, and I got to go to sleep before 9. So I was
look
happy.
at you. I was still in bed by 10, 11, but it is what it is. But yes, the Panthers look great. As I said, I still believe in the Panthers. And now this is 17 straight Eastern Conference Finals games that the Canes have lost. Don't ride with the Canes. I'm telling you, don't do it. The Panthers are not that much worse than the Canes. They only lost one more game, and they've actually technically won the same amount of them.
Well, if we're gonna just throw out some miscellaneous stuff, because I know we usually don't get into WNBA unless there's some type of drama. And I was gonna ask you, does it seem like the WNBA or even some of the stars on other teams are now eyeing on taking shots at Caitlin?
I mean, yeah, but I think that was in the cards regardless. You saw it last year, a lot of jealousy in my personal opinion.
Of course, that's what it was last year, but now it seems like they're getting chippy with her. And
well, jealousy doesn't just go away.
Of course, I know. I've had several ex-girlfriends that.
I'm just saying, look, I'm not going to put it that way. I just don't think that this is really surprising to me at all. I think with more success that Caitlin's going to have, especially with this Indiana Fever team, that looks good. Honestly, like, and I don't watch a lot of WNBA basketball, but from what I've seen, I've been watching the Valkyries a little bit. I've been watching the Sparks a little bit. I've been watching the Fever a little bit, and I've been watching the Aces a little bit. And honestly, the Fever look good. The Fever look really good.
Yeah,
It's
they
it's
pulled out the win
entertaining.
last night, but Caitlin's 140 game streak with a 3-pointer ended last night, which
well.
lasted over 1,200 days. This goes back all the way to her college career, but had a 140 game streak with at least a 1 3-pointer. Last night she was, I believe, 0 for 5, but they pulled out the 5-point win over the Dream. Let's take a break because I know we've got several stories out of Major League, some legal, some not, right here on the Early Bird Special.
Absolutely. Real quick, though, before we go to break, we'll highlight that from the world of football before we move out of it. Aiden Hutchinson's been cleared. The boys coming back to Detroit. This is going to be an interesting season for the Lions, man.
With a
I'm
new
telling
coordinator.
you. I can't wait to see it. And I'm very happy to see a guy like Aiden come back because let's not forget, he looked like the defensive player of the year last year before he got his leg broken. So
we'll see.
I
think Detroit takes a couple steps back this year, but that's just my opinion. But we'll definitely get into football as soon as I believe camp starts here in a week or so.
A little bit.
So there'll be a lot more news coming out of the NFL, and we'll let you know. And like I said before, text in if you've got your NBA predictions or even your Saturday night main event predictions. Text them in 661-842-2000 on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Oh, I could. No, that's not. Welcome back to the early bird special. Probably go through this entire song so many times. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. We got a little bit of news out of the world of baseball as we've hit 50 games now for most teams. Some teams still have to get there, I think, today. But unfortunately, there's one team that really would just hope this season would end right now today. And that's the Colorado Rockies, who have reached a new all-time low in baseball in over 100 years, as they are now 8-42 on the season in the first 50 games. This is the worst start since the 1800s, and
Yep.
I'm not joking.
1895,
The
the
team-
Louisville Colonels.
They were told there was a team called the Red Stockings. They weren't even calling the Sox yet. This is incredible. And this is after seeing a historically bad season last year from the Chicago White Sox, who have 15 wins right now. This is incredible.
And they only beat it by a game.
And we're talking about a team. And I don't mean to make this a joke, but it's kind of funny.
It is.
We're talking about a team that plays in Colorado. And for those of you who don't understand what that means, higher elevation. When there's higher elevation, balls soar. And I mean soar. And I mean, if you don't have any pop bat in your bat at all, you're usually hitting home runs in Colorado. How are you losing this bat? You're playing with a cheat code. I don't get it, but I mean, that's where we are right now in baseball. And if you look at the rest of the NL West, it's really, really scary. So I don't think that this might be the worst losing season in baseball history. They may not even hit 30 wins.
With the Phillies beating them, shutting them out last night 2-0.
Yay.
That counts for their 8th scoreless game and extending Phillies win streak to 7. But not only all those losses, but they've got 45 errors in 50 games.
They look so bad.
And to keep it in Colorado, a Rockies fan is suing the team after being hit in the eye by a foul ball during a game in last July against the Yankees. But here's the twist. The lawsuit blamed not just poor sightline and getting popped in the eye, but he is also blaming the Rockies as the long-standing poor performance from the team, arguing fans are less engaged because the team's been so bad.
Okay.
So the legal team claims the club's focus on off-field amenities over actual baseball created a dangerous distraction.
But you bought a ticket.
You bought a ticket.
You're not engaged, but you
But
bought
you
a
went.
ticket?
Yeah, you went.
Okay. This dude's gonna lose, and it's gonna be
yeah.
hilarious because first and foremost, anybody who goes to a baseball game knows they tell you in a disclaimer during the game, look alive. Anything could happen at any point in time. We do not have netting over everybody. It's only over in a certain amount of the field, and you need to make sure you can protect yourself. This happens every single year. We've seen Astros fans not defend their girlfriends from baseballs before,
Yes.
and it's the funniest thing in the world. Okay. It is baseball. There's gonna be something flying at you at some point.
Pay attention.
Look alive. That's the whole point. But no, the fact that you're gonna sit there and say that it's because of how bad they've been that you aren't engaged. First off, this year you could probably get away with that argument. Last year, not so much.
I almost wanted to wake up Attorney Kyle Jones just to see what he thought about it.
Yeah, no,
Because there's another
this is open and shut.
There's another story out of the subject of law. But Ruff is suing former big league player Darren Ruff is suing the Cincinnati Reds, claiming a career-ending knee injury was caused by an uncovered metal tarp roller at Great American Ballpark. He then, with the Brewers at the time, collided with the Hazard, chasing a foul ball in 23 and never played again.
Okay. I love Darren Ruff. He's a former Philly. I'm gonna start with that. Okay. I watched this game. I know exactly what happened. I watched the video again last night just to remind myself. High pop fly, foul ball. He's running to go find it. Could have let it go. He wasn't looking. He ran into the tarp and he messed up his knee. I don't know about the metal piece that busted him. That I have no idea. If that was uncovered and that's not normal on an MLB field, then yes, they should at least rectify that.
But again, much like the fan that's complaining about getting popped in the eye with a baseball, this is part of the game,
Yeah.
dude.
I mean, my dad used to tell me he used to play baseball in high school and early college, and he busted his knee up
Right.
sliding back in the day when they used to nail down the plates.
Right.
His knee got under and he couldn't get it out.
Yeah, and it caught him.
And it screwed his knee up, but it was part of baseball.
Right. But
You
what
knew
about
what you were signing up for.
Yeah, and it, like take an outfielder, for example, that crashes into the wall while
Mm.
trying to catch a foul ball. Can he then
Turn around and sue
the team because your wall's too hard?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it goes back to the fan
Yeah.
that wasn't paying attention, got popped with the foul ball.
Legally, I can see your argument, and you might win because, I mean, in legal terms, you might win in court. But in terms of like how this looks, come on, dude. You had a 12 to 13 year career. That was a solid career. You like played for a lot of different teams. It was a bang bang play that just happened to end that way. I don't think you should be suing the Cincinnati Reds, if I'm being honest. But
I'd like to see if he wins it.
go, I would like to see it as well. We'll be covering it and paying attention for you guys if you guys are just as curious as us. But realistically, in my personal opinion, I don't know if you should be suing. It's just one of those situations that's, it's a scary situation, but it's not like they did that on purpose. It's just something that was kind of there. And you as a player could have stopped. You could have easily stopped and not tried to run into the boundary. It was going out. It was going foul. Let it go.
Our listeners are the best, dude.
I don't know. Let's go. Let's
I'm
go
over
to
here
the
doing the
text real
show
quick.
with you and running it, and I'm getting
Yeah, let's go to some text real quick.
So
You're getting attacked, or am I getting attacked?
We are getting
Oh,
attacked.
Lord.
So this one was about damn time you people got to hockey.
Look, man.
I'm like, it's Friday, dude. Relax.
We're trying to hit everything. We only got an hour to do it. We got Chris Flail and Bolt Brady coming up right now. And trust me, we have been watching. It has been very entertaining. I told you guys yesterday to go with the Panthers. Did I not? Come on now.
You also said OKC wouldn't make it to the conference finals.
That's very true. I'm right sometimes and I'm wrong others. I'm okay. I'm okay with admitting that.
This other text says, I'm taking the Oilers and Knicks tonight. And Florida and OKC tomorrow.
That's a good bet. I'm not going to ride with OKC with you, but Florida tomorrow is a definitely good bet, especially on a 17-game losing streak from the Canes.
Yeah. Let's hear from Bolt before, because my prediction was the Knicks, and I took Minnesota yesterday. So I also took the Oilers. I mean, I'm riding that losing streak. So hopefully Bolt can help me out.
Honestly, the lines have been correct. I know we were very skeptical about the 7.5 line in games 1 and 2, but both games they came out and showed us exactly why it's that far away from each other. So
it's funny because when we brought it up with Snacks, he even was like, no.
I know. I mean, when you first hear it, everybody I've told around here that's a betting man that I've told it's a 7.5 point spread, they looked at me and said, ooh, I want to jump on that. Because on paper, looks like you should.
Yeah.
But honestly,
we'll talk to Bull Brady at 8:30. Let the professional tell you where to put your money, because
don't take it from us. I will never tell you to bet on anybody unless it's your friend for 20
I will
bucks.
during football season, but this is not football.
We're much better at choosing football games, trust me.
Let the professionals make you money for you.
And you guys could potentially beat us at that this year too. We'll tell you how that happens during the NFL season. But we got to take a break real quick and pay some bills. You've been listening to the Early Bird Special right here on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go check us out on all social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. We're all over the place at the Early Bird Special. Go like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2. And it's a Friday, so we have to have some fun. So we had to call in some friends, and we have Chris Flail back in the house with us. What's going on, brother?
Thank you for having me. And I also want to apologize to the listeners. I was listening on the way in, and I just heard you guys say, hey, look, we'd love to talk about hockey, but Chris Flail's coming in.
I'm just saying.
Hey,
You know how he is.
We had guests lined up.
We can only talk about blowouts for so long.
And I know. What do you expect us to talk about in a 5-0 win that I told you was going to happen yesterday? I don't know exactly how much I
can
can
talk
tell you.
WNBA too?
I mean, well, okay,
we did talk a little bit about it.
Let's not
We can move this whole segment.
That's honestly kind of, I think that's where the insult came from, as we talked WNBA before we talked NHL.
Yeah. And I've got strong WNBA thoughts, but I'm a Flyers fan, so I haven't watched hockey in about 11 years.
Wow. You guys have at least a pretty good mascot. That's at least one of the most memorable ones.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely. So, well, I mean, we could get into that a little bit because, I mean, I know Sparky did have some Philly stuff to throw at you today because of some Saquon Barkley comment.
Oh, yeah.
But
you want to start with that?
I mean, we might as well. We can get that out of the way.
Well, while prepping for the show yesterday, I caught Saquon on a couple of his teammates' podcast, which I believe is Blankenship.
Probably Rodrigo.
Yeah, it was
Sorry.
It was Reed Blankenship.
Reed, yeah.
And Cooper DeJean. And he was talking about last year's Eagles team. And, I don't need to set it up. Just listen to him.
When you look at our team that we had last year, I think we're a top 5 team of all time. And I tell my boys this all the time. Like, if you really look at the season outside of the first 4 games, like, it was belt to ass. How dominant you guys were on defense and how dominant we were on offense and special team. Yeah. People don't realize how great of a team that actually was.
I mean, true. I don't think anybody's complaining.
They were the top team last year.
I mean, true. But again, 16-1 down the stretch, winning the Super Bowl. You can't really argue with that.
I can. If a top 5 team all time, you got to be tripping. You got to be tripping, man.
As a Philly fan, I've got, I think I know what this comes down to. A couple of things. Number one, he's young and he's only ever played for the Giants, and you know what it's like when you have it
when you move from one,
when you have a terrible ex and a good new place. You're
it's
like,
the hottest
wow,
thing ever.
oh my,
exactly.
Wow.
We'll ask him in a couple of years.
I didn't get punched in my sleep last night. This is the best.
I'm just saying, I would put your guys' team last year up against maybe the Miami team that was undefeated.
You're out of your
no. I mean, in an actual game, I'd watch it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they'd win. I'm just
talking
saying
about the 85 Bears. I mean, we're talking. I mean, there was the dynasties of the Patriots, which I'm choking to myself even bring that up. But the Rams of the 2000s. I mean, there's plenty of teams that we can go down. They were a hell of a team after that first month. They turned it around, and I was super happy that they beat the Chiefs. Nothing to take away from the Eagles organization. That was a hell of a season, and that's why they were the Super Bowl champs. They were the best team last season.
Well, the Eagles' Super Bowl was gangbusters, but if you remember, the playoff road was rocky. They barely got away from the Rams. So I do think that this also is a way to endear yourself to the Philly fans, because delusion and moxie until 2018 was all we had. As a matter of fact, my family, my dad and my brother, we routinely our whole lives would text each other and say, hey, who won the Super Bowl in 1974? And someone would write back and go, oh, that was the Eagles. This is just what we do.
I mean, again, every team has a level of delusion that comes with being a fan. I've had multiple Niner fans sit in that seat in the last couple of days. I've told me Brock Purdy wasn't overpaid. So there's a level of delusion. But I don't know. I genuinely believe last year's team for you guys was at least in the conversation of a top team, because
probably one of their top teams in franchise history.
Well, again, I don't know. We'd have to obviously make a list of every team that we're talking about.
I mean, these types of things goes back to like the GOAT conversations, stuff that you can never win in an argument, but it's a great debate.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? The Jordans, the Kobes, the LeBrons, who's the real GOAT? And nobody brings up the Chamberlains and, all the other guys that, set the table for them before they played.
I'm also sitting here wondering, though, while we're saying this, are you saying this in the sense of they're on top of that top 5, or are they just in that top 5?
I think they're in the conversation. Every Super Bowl winner in the last 60 years are probably in the conversation, but
I feel like when we hear athletes say stuff like this, we automatically assume they're putting themselves at number one of the top 5. I don't think that's what he's saying.
No,
I think he's just saying that
later in that conversation, he brought up the 72 Dolphins, the 85 Bears.
Yeah.
He brought up the Rams team with Marshall Falk and Kurt
the greatest
Warner.
show on turf.
I think this is like my top 5 movie list, which contains about 22 movies.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think this is how we're top 5.
And it's easy to sit here and say with recency bias, but I don't know. I'd have to I'm just saying that if you really made a Madden tournament and like simulated all these teams, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
I'd watch it just for the pure enjoyment of wondering, I wonder if that would actually happen. You
Well,
know what I
while
mean?
we have an Eagles, were you surprised with the tush push not getting banned?
No, I was surprised. So I saw when it got tabled, it was 50-50 vote, right? I was surprised that they whipped almost enough votes in that short period of time to get it. But I believe the Dolphins were one of the teams that showed some competitive spirit to vote.
I hate that my team was on the wrong side of history.
But again, to me, I'm not greedy. I don't care if they don't let us run any plays.
Yeah.
I thought my whole life would come and go without seeing 2 Super Bowls. I don't care if they just make us punt and play defense for the rest of my entire life.
What I liked was Kelsey coming out in the middle of that conversation saying, dude, I just want to come back just to play the tush push 60 times to shut you guys up.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And again, the argument of safety and stuff like that is the only thing that they could really use. And until you have statistics to prove that, I don't think you could really sway those final votes to your side. You know what I mean?
What I didn't know was our biggest opponent, and it's your own people.
Yep.
Troy Vincent. Troy Vincent was the one pushing to take us down.
Yep.
And he's a former Dolphin too. So I know he got a little chippy because the Eagle, was it the CEO or the owner of the Eagles, his comment to it was like a little boy. Well, I had to say that yesterday, but it was a little boy getting too happy or finishing early or something like that. And he said people are just hating on it because they can't stop it.
And again, it's still funny to me that the team that is putting this through is the team that runs this play the second most in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like you're essentially telling everybody, we can't figure this out, so we want you to ban it so they can't use it anymore.
That's exactly
It's like this just seems dumb. I get like I don't know. I've said this a million times, but
he said it's a wet dream for a teenage boy.
Dream for a teenage boy, yeah.
So Troy Vincent said, "Oh, whoa, dude."
You should have just said, "Hey, don't make me."
That, but
yeah, you should have said, "Don't make me bring Plaxico Burress in here."
Right.
Whoop up on you again.
Bitch slap you like you did before.
Oh.
But to get away from, you got anything else for the NFL?
Real quick, yeah, just the last thing on the tush push part of this, because it seems to me, and I just want to bounce this off you, the limitations that should be put on it. Would you as a fan be cool with it if they just said, you know what, you can't do it to score a touchdown? You know what I mean? Like in that kind of a sense.
Yeah.
Like in any way.
I understand. And what's more than likely going to happen is there's going to be some defensive response that makes a severe safety issue.
Right.
And that's when, if there's going to be, if they bring all of the linebackers in secondary, Troy Polamalu style, to jump the snap and 3 people get injured on one play, it's done whether the NFL rules it out or not. And at some point,
twist on the quarterback when he's in there.
Yeah, some Greg Williams style defense is going to try this.
That's why I'm saying, because I mean, I don't think it's Frankie Louvu, the linebacker for the
Washington,
Commanders did that last year against you guys in the championship game, and that's when they told everybody, you do it again, we're just going to give them the touchdown. And it's like, you have to allow that, right? You have to allow something to fight this play, because
that's where I was more surprised that they didn't at least adapt it with the defensive side where they can push. But I mean,
I think you'll see that
I'm sure they're going to keep continuing to fight this, or like you just said, defense is going to come out swinging next season, or somebody's going to get hurt, and they're going to be like,
lineman's going to get his knees chopped out from under him or something like that, and
that's
it's not going to be pretty.
My dad is old school, so when we were watching, we always watch the Dolphin games every weekend, and so I haven't seen him probably 4 or 5 months, but we watch every Dolphin game since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And he goes back, just break that guy's leg, and maybe somebody just, roughs up Jalen real quick, and maybe they go away from it.
It's like, let's not tell our kids to do that, but I mean, wrap and roll, kid, wrap and roll.
Exactly. But before we get into wrestling, what do you think about the NBA playoffs so far?
I'm having a blast.
Yeah.
Especially there's one team that I can't stand left, and that's the New York Knicks. And the team's not bad, but the fans.
Yeah, I
The
can
New
say-
York.
But coming from an
Well,
Eagles
I know
fan?
that's what I was just about to say. Like, really?
Yeah.
We just
I
last time
know.
you were sitting in that chair, I have a video online right now of you calling the Eagles the most
But our
heinous fans.
Our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yes, cheeky.
Yes, throwing batteries at Santa Claus was so fun.
It was snowballs. And
It's
our,
not snowballs.
our future governor Ed Rendell was there, so that's a government action.
That makes it
technically.
easy. Yeah. I hate both of the Knicks and Pacers, but loving Tibbs, man, I'm pulling for the Knicks.
You are.
Just because I love Tibbs and he hasn't made it over that hump.
Yeah.
But
I love the Pacers.
I hate the fans too.
I'm starting to lean on the Pacers, to be honest with you. After game one, they're starting to win me over.
I love Halliburton as a star.
Yeah.
I love the
but not a superstar. Did you hear that?
I saw that, not a superstar, which is okay. I understand the reasons that they say all of that, but
coming from a Knicks fan,
coming from a Knicks fan, coming from somebody who's looking for someone to talk about for 6 hours a day. And but Halliburton has it. He's got tie-ins, he's got personality. They just haven't shown it yet.
And he's going to be in the new wrestling game too, from what I understand.
I saw that,
That's going to be pretty interesting. But I don't know. I watch in about 2 to 3 weeks when the Knicks inevitably lose this series to the Pacers. I'm assuming Stephen A. Smith is going to be turning all that superstar talk around, because what does he have to do?
Well, and it's funny. Halliburton's like the silent killer. He's the frail 6'4", 175-pound, but he's going into game 2 to step on New York's
Absolutely.
neck. He doesn't look like the big menacing LeBron James, Anthony Edwards that will take a game off on a 1-0 lead, which is interesting. So I would like to see the mainstream come back around.
I think the team is like that though. Like the team is very much geared towards, we're going to step on your throat until you stop breathing, and then we're going to move right past you.
And I feel the same way with OKC.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing at OKC. But I think going just when he did the choke thing and pulled the Reggie Miller, and it was a 2-pointer, not a 3-pointer. I'm like, dude, they're gonna win this game.
See, but now I'm worried. Now that listener texted in and reminded us that they had lost that series, the Pacers lose 4-3. Now I'm worried. Now I'm thinking the Pacers are gonna have some sort of voodoo and they're gonna lose the next 4 games.
And just as an old Bulls fan and having to hear Reggie Miller do these games, I'm like, I really want the Knicks to win now.
Yeah,
because I just want Ferengue to shut the hell up.
In all fairness, though, Reggie doesn't sit there and like ogle over his former team like a lot of other of these guys do.
Did you see the videos of the fans in Radio City Music Hall when Reggie was laughing after Halliburton hit the buzzer beater?
I love the point, right? Like when he's looking right at him, and I'm like, see, like that part I understand. You're like, okay, dude, we get it, used to be a Pacer, but I at least give Reggie credit that he doesn't, like, during the game, he won't go crazy about talking about his old Pacer days and how much this team means to him and all that type of stuff like you hear some other guys do. So I don't know. I give him a little bit of credit in that area.
Yeah. I cannot stand Reggie Miller.
No.
Well,
for good again, Bulls fan, very good reason.
I was too, but now that it's over, I have an appreciation. It's almost like, the cartoon of the dog and the mailman punching the clock together.
Yeah.
Now I look at it and I go, man, you really were something.
That's how I feel about Kobe. I genuinely, when I was growing up, I hated Kobe. Anybody who went to high school with me will tell you I was a avid Kobe hater. But when it all kind of went down, he retired and stuff like that. Now I see him as one of the greatest players to ever play. I just had mad respect for him, but just hated him because I was a LeBron fan.
Yeah.
So
and the last of his kind. You were talking about all defensive team earlier in the show. I think he got 12 of them.
Again, and you're going to see guys. I think guys like Lou Dort and SGA and all them will probably be mentioned on the all defensive team more and more, especially since the game is starting to move more towards that again. But I don't know. It just having a skill set like he had and Michael had, really, it's what makes that just unbelievable.
Yep.
So,
well, tomorrow is Saturday night's main event. We've got 4 matches scheduled.
I think we're going to get a 5th one announced tonight. I genuinely believe we'll get a 5th one announced tonight, because usually with these PLEs or pay-per-views, you get at least 5 matches. So it's weird to me that we're only having 4.
Well, and if I saw the card, no women's matches.
That's what I said too. And I was like,
they're going to put Lyra and.
That's the only one that's been brewing right now. And that's unless you're going to put Zelina Vega and Chelsea Green, but that has kind of been put on the back burner as of late as well. So I really don't know. But they have had And I honestly, and maybe we will get a PLE of all men's matches, because don't forget, there's a rumor that we're getting an all women's PLE at some point as well this
Evolution
year.
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. Maybe they're just going to give this all to the guys, and then the women all get their own here in about a month or two.
So as of right now, we've got Uso against Logan Paul.
I mean, I don't think.
I'm going to say the same thing as I asked KG earlier this week. Do you think there are any titles move?
I don't think Uso loses the belt, but I'm curious to see what happens with the storyline if Logan Paul gets revealed as the third man, or if he the backstage segment where Rollins kind of threatened to come after the belt made obscured that a little bit for me. But there's got to be something interesting that happens with that match. I just don't know. I just don't see what the angle is right.
Right.
Well, we brought that up. That's kind of one of our big topics with KG is, who's going to be the third guy, and how Rollins has in the last week or so. I think it was just this last week on Raw, where all the guys that we were thinking it could be, whether it was Logan,
Austin Theory, Gunther. I mean, they all kind of got talked to by Seth in this last week. So they're definitely listening to the internet.
I have a weird one that came to me yesterday that I haven't put much thought. What do you think about Karrion Kross?
I would love to see that. And honestly, if you bring Karrion in, obviously you'd be bringing his wife in as well, because Scarlett is a fantastic addition. But I think we're going to get them pushed by themselves. I think that there's such an authentic push for these two.
They got to do something with him.
Yeah. And he's easily a guy that you could put into any title contention, and it'll be a fantastic match. So I think you'll get that probably more towards the end of next month, maybe closer to SummerSlam. We'll get a Karrion Kross maybe against John Cena or somebody of that nature to get him back into contention. He won't win right off the bat, obviously, but I think he'd be a cool one to at least push by himself. I think he's been in a faction long enough, and really putting him back into one right after really dismantling his would just be weird, in my opinion.
Well, keeping it with the Seth Rollins group or whatever, Seth and Braun teaming up against CM Punk and Sammy, and I know a lot of the rumors have been, it's going to be Sammy.
That's why
turning on CM Punk and being that third guy. Maybe he's the third guy.
I'm telling you,
I hope not, man. I do not like
as
Sammy.
much as this is why I believe that this is the only reason why I think we may stick to 4, because I think this match is going to have a really long post-match sequence in which leads to the third member being brought out, whether it's going to be Sammy, putting a chair through Punk, or whomever is going to come down and be that guy to step in and make the match a win for Seth and Braun. But I like the idea of Sammy being the third member.
I just hope it's Gunther.
But if we
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. But if they do Sammy, you have to do some sort of angle that it makes it look like the Shield. Like where he's just standing there right behind Punk with the chair, and Punk's not paying attention. And then just like Seth did to Roman, you just go right at his back and then beat him up.
It's funny you mentioned that. I almost Googled last night John Moxley's contract situation, and I forgot to.
See, no, I would love to see Mox back in the WWE. I don't think you'll see it for a little bit. But if we do get Mox back in the WWE, he ain't teaming with Seth. He's teaming with Roman.
I think so.
Those two are best friends.
And the rumors that I've been reading, that it doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of the tribal chief.
No, for
a while.
I don't think we'll get Sammy heel turn, because I remember this one snippet where they made a point in an in-ring segment a few months ago to note that Sammy's not going to win a belt. I think they're starting long launch to babyface champ. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think my guess is that this is the match where he plays way above his weight class, and they set the chain in motion for that.
I like that idea, especially with the promo between the two of them, where he's like, I'm going to do it the right way and all of that way. But there's just something about this. He's cleaning himself up like he used to when he was in the Bloodline. The beard looks a little more trim. I don't know. There's just something to me that makes me believe, like, we've seen him pull this multiple times, either if it was against Kevin or against Roman or against whomever. So who's to say he won't do it against Punk?
Crown Jewel coming up. He's ramping up to go back to his his hometown.
Well, actually, Crown Jewel this year is in Australia.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's actually Royal Rumble, I believe, that's in Saudi Arabia this year. So, which is even bigger, because if he wins Royal Rumble in Saudi, which is a very good chance,
That's it.
He's going into WrestleMania, which would probably set up the championship match.
I think we just did it.
I don't think it happens.
Call
I
Hunter.
mean, I don't. Oh,
I just gave Sammy $1 when I pulled in off of California Avenue, and I just don't think he's got the style, dude.
I did see him walk by before the segment started.
But keeping it with
Oh,
Cena,
Lord.
Cena and R-Truth, is this just he's a big fanboy type match, or is there going to be something come out of this?
I think there's going to be a fun match that ensues, but I do believe this is just going to be John Cena against John Cena's greatest hits. And in a way, it's going to be, like
battle.
I said on Tuesday, a rap battle would be fantastic
be
to start
awesome.
this
Not
out.
even wrestle, just rap.
I
battle.
didn't even consider that. Oh, my God, yes.
Well, KG sent me a rap video of R-Truth, and I was like,
Yep.
well, I guess he was
Well,
a rapper.
let's not forget, R-Truth opened up for Tupac at one point.
Did he
in his
really?
career. He did.
Well,
He opened up for
I heard the
Tupac.
interview. He said that every year there was like a kind of like a Comic-Con, but for hip hop back
Yeah.
in the early 90s. And he would go every year trying to sell his stuff. And he said it was cassette tape. If any of you guys know what that is. But he said he hung out with Tupac and they were real buddies after that. So it was
That was a respectable on the spot R-Truth, by the way.
Right?
Just to be in the you haven't practiced that. I could tell by the way.
No.
That was nice.
I'm just surprised. I mean,
I almost made a cassette joke when I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to leave that alone.
it
That was
feels
actually really
feels
good.
like the farewell tour is like he's hitting all his big fans, his big
absolutely.
buddies, and
I think R-Truth wins this due to some interference
That would be
because
awesome.
it's non-title match.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I think we either have
would
Randy
be
Orton
awesome.
steps in, or we have some reemergence of Cody Rhodes. I'm the bad boy, good guy, willing to do the things now for the right reason.
Oh, that is his boy. I
That
mean,
is his
he's
boy.
he's looked out for him.
I'm doing a comedy
Well,
skit about this when I go home. By the
let's-
way,
I can't
I'm
wait.
just about to say,
We'll have to
technically,
share that.
If there's one guy on the WWE roster that hates R-Truth more than John Cena, it's technically Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Because Cody Rhodes has a long history of R-Truth beating him when he was younger. There's
Yeah.
many interviews where he talks about this, and it's fantastic.
And dude, if you're not following Chris Flail comedy on Instagram, his reels are hilarious.
thank you.
I was gonna bring up the one I had to show my wife, and she looked at me like your wife was on that video, but talking about the whole wrestling thing about, she asks, are they actually going to wrestle? And you're like, no, it's a setup.
Yeah, it's
they're
all
gonna
setup.
they're gonna
Yeah.
take a break, then they'll do a behind the scene interview, and then they'll show you clips from the last match from 6 months ago.
So I've given my real fiance an introduction into the WWE, and she loves it. But there are times where she'll be like, wait, so you're telling me Seth Rollins and CM Punk never dated? That's what you're trying to. They've never been in a relationship, but they've never been interested in that. No.
So-
it's-
I mean, there's a little bit of tension there, right? I mean,
So-
it seems like it.
So I grew up watching wrestling, and I stopped post right around when they started bringing WCW guys over after Vince bought. I'm like, I can't watch this. I hated WCW, so when they were starting to come over, and I'm like, these stories are just going to get whack. I can't watch it. And I took probably a 15-year break until me and Burdick started talking, and he got me watching. It's probably almost a full year. So I did the same thing with my wife after about a month or two, and I understood, okay, who's who and blah, blah, blah. And now she's hooked. She's like, don't start it until I get home.
Everybody gets, dude, I'm telling you, as everybody listening right now or that loves to make fun of us for talking wrestling, sit down and watch Raw one morning or one afternoon. I guarantee you'll be wanting to watch next week.
Yeah, whatever you like, it's that live. If you're a big action movie fan, it's that live. If you like the theater, it's that live.
If you're a horror fan, there's elements of that in there for you too, even though we haven't seen the Wyatt Six in some time, and I'm very disappointed in that. Although there is a rumor about that I
Charlotte?
sent you.
Did you see that one?
I did, but that's not the one I'm referring to. So there is a rumor going around right now on the internet that John Cena is having all of this happen because he's still trapped inside of Bray Wyatt's funhouse from that funhouse match
I love
years
us.
ago.
I have no
It's
idea.
I love us.
fantastic. No, I just laughed at this because I was like, really? We're going to pull a match that was like 6 years ago? And the internet is saying because at the end of that match, the lights go out and they come back on and John's no longer there.
Oh, he's
He's no longer there. And now it's all John in his own head. And this is everything Bray was talking about. I'm a massive Bray Wyatt fan, but the rumors that come out of the internet for the wrestling world are fantastic.
Tremendous.
Well, the one last night I saw was that Charlotte is going to go deep, dark queen, and she's going to join the Wyatt Six when they come back. I was like, well,
That is a long shot, but I would love to see
I would
that.
love to see it. but I mean, it looks like they're searching for something for her to do right now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how long that ring entrance intro will be if you add a flare to the Wyatt Six?
Oh my God. I
It's
mean,
going to be half the show.
hers is already long enough as it is. I love
Mhm.
the Wyatt Six, but their entrance takes about 30 minutes just for them to
It's like-
appear in front of the door.
It's like Uso. I'm like, I'm so sick of this.
I mean,
man.
there are a handful of these entrances where I'm like, okay, Hunter, I get it. It's a spectacle, but let's
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Roman taking 30 minutes to walk down to the ring for us
Well,
to
that's
watch
what-
him for a 5-minute match is
Netflix
ridiculous.
Netflix is caught on. They go to break.
Yep. They got plenty of time for
They
commercials.
do.
I'm like, okay.
They got
do.
plenty of time for
Poor
commercials.
Roxanne is always the after break.
Yes.
She is. So is Chad Gable too, which I find hilarious. But
But the
Grande
final match.
Americano gets an entrance.
Yes, he does.
yeah, but Chad doesn't.
But the final match that is at least scheduled as of right now is the Damian Priest McIntyre in a steel cage.
That's gonna be good. But again, this is kind of feeling. Am I the only
Ran its
one
course.
that feels like Drew McIntyre is just gone back to back to back? Just
Beating the hell out of himself.
yes, but more just these rivalries against these guys are going too long.
Yes.
And going nowhere.
Yeah, like the CM Punk one went for over a year. This Damian Priest one is dang near half a year. And the one before that with the bloodline, I'm like, dude, we need to get you into a storyline, maybe against Karrion. Maybe it needs to be you and Karrion Cross,
good one.
and the two of you battle it out. And it has to be something different because I'm starting to feel like Lyra and Becky.
Yes.
It's like this is going way too long.
Maybe put him with Gunther, who I also feel like is trapped in a box.
Mhm.
They've
See,
just
that was
got
the same
two
thing.
trapped in a box stars.
Exactly.
Well, and they've dangled the fact that he should be going after Solo.
Yes.
Because they said this months ago that once he was done with CM Punk, he'd be coming after the bloodline again. But apparently, we're just throwing that out the window, and he's just going to keep going with his Damian Priest thing because you have nothing to do with either of these guys right now. So much so that you threw him into the mid card title, which neither of these guys are going to win because they're both main card guys, and that'd be just a disservice to them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that one. I just that one's been bugging me a little bit.
Well, it's kind of been with all these superstars. It seems like some of them either get stale or they're searching for something to do with them. I mean, even with Gunther, I was like, dude, this stuff with Pat McAfee and all this was like, come on, man, that's one of your best wrestlers.
Although the evolution we've seen Gunther on in terms of being a character and like his personality is kind of interesting. He's no
very much
longer
so.
the super cocky, the Russian type character. He's much more centered and like more just cerebral, I think. I don't know.
I think that's
I'm kinda
why he
liking
fits
this.
perfect with Seth and them. Is
They're-
how they're taking over and they want the wrestling, the guys back.
They're molding him in the right way, but I feel like they're doing it a little bit too. I feel like they're doing that like 90-second wrap up at the end of the movie where you
Mhm.
see the character shift, because I think they bring up these stars a little bit too quickly to the mainstream and then don't have anywhere for them to go. I see it happen in the women's division right now. They're
Mhm.
bringing these NXT stars up and putting them in main event matches, whether it's on Raw or SmackDown, and now you have this whole middle class that's not really getting shine of your Nia Jaxes and all them that you were creating storylines for and
Mhm.
aren't really going anywhere. And you see, as much as I'd love to see new talent, you see the Stephanie Vaqueras, and I watched her for 15 minutes in the ring, and I went, oh, I don't think she can work. I think she's going to hurt EO by the end of this thing. And you've got 3 million followers, and you built this whole thing up. So now, what do you do with that? And what do you do with your middle carders that were moving into main event?
And seeing wrestling fans keep forgetting, okay, there was a story over here because I totally forgot that might be the fifth match. That might be Nia and Tiffy as they've been setting that for SmackDown for the last couple of weeks.
That's also true. But the Stephanie Vaquer and Julia getting moved. Well, Stephanie's not getting
How
moved
they
up
swapped
just
them.
yet. But moving up Roxy and Julia was going to happen eventually. I know that. And I know Stephanie actually was offered a spot on the main roster from the get-go. But I genuinely believe that you're seeing a lot of these move ups because of just the shift in how wrestling has been, especially at the WWE, is everybody is really at that peak superstar level. There's not a lot of pure mid-carders
Right.
anymore. And they're actually moving away from the pure mid-carders and allowing them to go off and essentially do what Cody did, go to a different company, build yourself up again, and then if you're big enough, come back and we'll throw you into the main card,
Yeah.
essentially making the WWE the main card altogether, and everybody else underneath them is just sub.
And it's this rare occurrence where you have like 8 megastars.
Right.
You've got nearly a dozen Hulk Hogan's. When they do the rivalry of Seth and CM Punk and Roman.
It's so weird to me, at least when it comes to athletes in general, because you could really say the same thing about the NBA, the NFL. all of these teams and all of these leagues have really just the amount of superstars in every single one of them has skyrocketed. I can't speak for you guys, obviously, because you were born well before I, but in the 90s, obviously, you guys had like 1 to 2 stars on the team. Well, okay.
Well,
That's how you're sending me out. You blame me for not talking about hockey on the way
which I'm
in.
going to say, which
I
the
never
badass-
blamed you for that.
with the badass shirt he's wearing today.
I was going to bring that up later.
But since we only got a minute or so, I will say, the difference between what we were watching growing up is we weren't social media.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
getting blown up, but there's so many different live events and televised events that it's almost saturated. Back in the day, I mean, you were lucky to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan or the Bushwhackers. There was the Hulk Hogan's, and that is what their moving piece was. It was Hogan, Macho Man, Undertaker, whatever.
Well, wouldn't the social media aspect be a good thing though? Because that's how they
Yeah.
find
Oh,
a
it
lot
would
of
have
these
been.
major
Well,
stars.
And the audience is better and more diverse than
Yeah,
it's
it
ever
is.
been. It's wider age range, and it's
Although it has opened the door for so many toxic traits.
Oh my God.
So many toxic traits.
And they are so lost especially when they were mixing up, with Cody or Seth, and they don't even know who to cheer for anymore. They're like, I like them all.
Right.
Well, I think that's part of it. Tell me if we've got to go, but I think that's part of what happened with Cody going stale. Is they pushed the bubblegum guy 5 or 6 months longer than they should have, and then I think Cena had to turn heel. I think he's just a company man to the end because he knew that would give Cody a push, and then the audience went, you know what? No, now we'll just cheer for bad guys if you're going to force bubblegum.
Honestly, I think that's
Yep.
really how society is today, though, is we cheer villains more than we cheer the hero now.
We know them.
Yeah, we absolutely we just connect with the villain more than ever, and I think that's why you have to have a little bit of bad guy and every good guy.
Right.
Well,
you
like
can
we've
no
always
longer have
said, man,
the-
we could talk to you for hours. We appreciate
love
you taking time out. We'll see you 2 weeks
I
if you're
love
not
it.
on the road.
I'm here. Thank you guys.
Do you
So,
have a show you want to promote real quick? or-
I've got in town, so I'm in Sacramento next weekend for shows. But in town, the next big one I've got July 19th. Templar Brewing Company got some of the area's finest on that one as well. It's going to be a blast. I hope you guys come out.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. And we'll talk more about that in a couple of weeks.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
enjoy
Thanks,
your
brother.
holiday
Appreciate
weekend. We got Bolt Brady on the line, so get your betting questions in because I've got a couple. As soon as he talked about the Knicks, I want to know. And now you turned on the Knicks already. You
I'm
picked them
sorry,
yesterday.
I did, but here's the thing: the Pacers are just winning me over, and the more I think about it,
After
can I
one game?
really go against Jermaine O'Neal's old team?
Yes.
I don't have any Nick players where I'm sitting there. Oh no, wait, Carmelo Anthony, crap.
Well, we'll talk to
I'm in
Bolt
trouble.
right after this break. The early bird special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, that's Sparky, and if you hear that music, you know what time it is. Our guy Bolt Brady from Bolt Brady and his bro at the Believe Network is with us. Good sir, how are you?
Good morning, guys. What's happening?
Not a whole ton, sir. First question, as always, we got to get into the NBA with you. So before we get into the games, I have a self-indulgent question I have for you because I know you're somebody who follows the Nuggets pretty well.
Yep.
How do you feel about the coaching decision?
I think they could have done a little better.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But why do you feel this way?
I just don't think there's too much experience there. I think it was kind of a quick decision just based on, they probably outplayed most people's expectations in the playoffs. So they thought that was a good thing. And they're like, let's go with this guy.
See, I agree with you, but I can't necessarily say that I believe that their expectations were beaten because of the coaching. It seemed to me that it was more Joker and Russ that were doing the coaching than he was.
Yeah, I mean, when you do look at them in the huddle, you did actually see like Russ doing a lot of the talking and Joker, which is pretty interesting.
Which we see in a lot of teams this year. I mean, not just this year, but this era of basketball. A lot of them are players running the team, not really the coaches, which, opened up doors with like Malone or, the older veteran type coaches to step away or get fired.
Right. No, I know. That's the problem when they get as paid as much as they do. They get paid 5-10 times more than the coach. So they look at the coach like, I'm the man. You're not the man.
Yeah,
right.
Who's this old white dude telling me what to do?
Well, sir, we have a two games today and tomorrow. Right now, we're looking at a 6.5 point line favoring the Knicks in tonight's game. How do you feel?
Well, that's interesting because they obviously lost the last game, and that line was 4.5. So the line went up 2 points, and they lost. I think the reason for that is there's a theory out there. It's called the zigzag theory, and you just take the opposite of the team that lost the game before. And it used to do well, but this year it's only hitting about 50% in the playoffs. I look at that game as not so much the line as the over-under. I like the under 224.5. And the reason why is the first game, both teams shot 51% from the field, and Indiana actually hit 40% from three ball. They were 15 for 37. So I don't think that's going to come out again. I think in game two, it's got a good chance to go under.
I agree with you. And I think the big key for the Knicks coming into game two is keeping the Pacers under 120 points. I know they're like 30-2 when they're over 120. So if you could play defense well enough and just keep them contained, I feel like they have a good chance to
keep it 4 quarters, not 5.
At least beat the spread too at 6.5. That's a pretty big steep. But the next game we got is tomorrow. OKC headed to Minnesota. OKC is favored by 2.5 rather than the 7.5 they've had the last two games. How do you feel about that one?
Well, so Minnesota kind of looks like they're in trouble. There's been 34 instances in the Western Conference Finals where a team's been up 2-0, and 33 out of the 34 have moved on to the championship game. But we're taking it game for game here, and Oklahoma City is 0-5 against the spread on the road this year in the playoffs. So I like the T-Wolves plus the 2.5.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Now, obviously, these series might be wrapped up by the next time we see you. Very unlikely, but they could be. Do you have a favorite going into the finals right now?
To win the NBA or to
I'm sorry, just the two teams to get there, not necessarily to win in the whole thing.
Oh, gosh, I thought Minnesota had a good chance. I liked them to stay within a game and a half in the series, but here's the thing. I know a lot of people are panicking on Minnesota, but like they said, it doesn't really start. The series doesn't start until a team loses a home game. So let's hold our horses there. The T-Wolves still might be in this, but the Pacers, I mean, they're just on fire. They're 9-2 straight up in the playoffs. I mean, they've obviously got some good mojo going. I'd like to see New York, but the Pacers are going to be tough to beat.
See, that's kind of where I'm leaning right now as well. As I'd like to see a Pacers final at least, but I was leaning early on this whole potential Knicks versus Timberwolves matchup just because of the rivalries and stuff that could ensue from that.
Yeah,
I don't know. How do you feel about this playoff run in general? Me and Sparky both have said that this has got to be one of the best ones we've seen in quite some time.
Oh, it's definitely exciting. I mean, teams that get up by 20, you're still not guaranteed
right?
to win the game, right? I mean, the when they came back, the Pacers, with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left, 994 games that has happened, and no team has lost except the Knicks now by being up by 14 or more points with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left.
See, I've seen that stat. I've seen that the Pacers have now are 3 of the 4 wins of like over 1,000 something that's happened in the playoffs. It's incredible what this team has been able to do.
Well, those types of games are the reason I didn't change the channel last night, because
True.
I was like, it's not over. It's not over. They can cut it to single digits. But I mean, the game one, I mean, I would think I'm not going to go away from the Knicks yet. I think the same thing. I mean, they lost their home games against Boston, and I know it's a whole different series because the Pacers are playing hot, but they also led that game, the majority of that game. So I think Tibbs, his defensive mind style, I think they'll come out. But my concern is Cat. You know, I was not expecting Cat to come out as hot as he did in game one, and I just am not 100% sold that he can do that in back-to-back games, because I haven't seen it, and he likes to take some lazy breaks, and so I'm hoping that the Knicks can even it out and make it a 5-game series. But I mean, the Pacers, like you guys have both said, they're hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, I like New York to win the game tonight. I just don't know if they're going to cover the 6.5. But yeah, it's really hard, like we've said in the past, to win in New York. And so I do think they win the game tonight. I just don't know if they're going to cover the 6.5.
Of course.
And then before we let you go, my friend, I got to get your thoughts on last week's PGA Championship and Scotty coming back as we thought he would.
Yeah, that was awesome, right? We were talking we were talking about Bryson and Scotty coming back, and they finished first and second, so that worked out well. And then if you also notice, we talked about Max Homa crashing and burning, and he did crash and burn.
Absolutely.
He shot over par the next 2 days. So, yeah, that was awesome. Scotty's on fire. I mean, he's the man right now.
You got anything going for this weekend's tournament or no?
No, not yet, but I did notice that your boy Ricky was up
I know.
there.
See, but this is what I tell you. He's always there for these smaller tournaments, and then the second or third round, he'll just disappear. It's like, dude, at this point, go to Live. I don't know what to do with you anymore. Go to Live Golf. Maybe you'll win over there.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, the big dogs kind of take off these tournaments a little bit, so it gives the little guys a chance. But hopefully Ricky gets up there someday again.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'd love to see the all-orange Puma suit in a tournament one more time, but God knows. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate your time as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks, brother. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills, and get back for our final segment of the day. We'll let you know what we're watching this weekend and what you should be checking out as well. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go check us out on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok. We're all over the place at the Early Bird Special.
I went with the Chesterless. But I love this song, dude.
No, she is fantastic. She really is fantastic. I just don't know. It's not Chester. It's not Chester, but it's still Lincoln. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special, final segment of the week. Thank you guys for joining us all week. Join us back here Monday, 7 to 9, as always. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Tuesday, not Monday. We will not be here Monday.
No Monday.
Memorial Day.
Enjoy your Memorial Day.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding me of that.
I would have showed up on Monday. Yeah, join us back here Tuesday, 7 to 9. We'll have our boy KG in the building. Obviously, we'll run down some wrestling that we'll
be able to
hopefully
get SmackDown, Saturday Night Main Event, and
Raw at the same time. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I wonder, is that pre-recorded?
I don't know. They've been pretty good. WWE has changed in a way that they don't have their people really working a lot on holidays. So it could be. They could have pre-recorded this and be releasing it today. So we will see, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, before we get into the text, I know you brought up during the break that Mick Foley has announced that he's coming back to town.
Yes. So our friends over, I need to look
KRRJ Collectibles.
Yes, KRRJ Collectibles. Thank you. Our friends over at KRRJ Collectibles are hosting Mick Foley one more time in November. If you missed out on him last time he was here, go check it out. He's a great guy. Me and Sparky both got to meet him, take a picture with him. He's a fantastic individual. Thank God he's still among us, as he had a very, very serious car accident. So take that as
on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, take that as a thing here. This could, these opportunities don't come around every single time. So if you're a wrestling fan and you did not get to go meet Mick Foley back in 2024, he is coming back this year, same location, right over there on Ming Avenue. And I believe it was November 1st is the date I saw. Yeah, right next to the old Rusties. And go check it out. The pictures and the autographs and stuff like that. It's yes, you will have to pay a little bit, but it's not crazy. It'll be maybe $20 for both. It's fantastic. Now, don't quote me on the pricing.
We'll reach out and get him on.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to talk to him on the show. It'd be a fantastic guest to have. And honestly, I could take an entire show with Mick Foley just talking about his career, to be honest with you.
I'd like to hear from the guy over at KRJ as well.
Yes.
He's a good dude too.
We need to get him on and get that pumped up. If you're a collector too, or if you just like pops, or if you have one of your kids is a pop fanatic, go to KRRJ. I promise you he's got what you're looking for, and they are all fairly priced. I've bought multiple from him, and I wasn't even a pop collector until I walked into that building. And honestly, I dang near walked out with a whole bunch of anime character trophies too. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of those, and it's awesome. I love that place.
Well, we've got all sorts of miscellaneous text, so let's go down these.
Yes, absolutely.
The first one says the 1972 Dolphins is the best of NFL Super Champions.
Absolutely.
You
undefeated.
You go perfect in a season and win the Super Bowl. The argument's over. But my top 5 Super Bowl teams after the Dolphins is the 85 Bears, 89 Niners, 2000 Rams, and the 2001 Ravens.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget Ray and his. Oh, man. Yeah. No. That's a good list. That's a very good list.
A game I'd watch.
But again, this is what I'm talking about. Imagine, and I know the only way we'd ever be able to do this is if you had a Madden simulator. But am I wrong? Am I the only one that would say that I would sit down on a television and watch it simulated just because I'd love to see if this, like, how this would actually go down, or if it was anywhere close? Because a lot of these players and teams, I'd love to see the comparisons of how they played back then and dealing with how they play now. It would be incredible. I don't know. That's just me. But
well, the other text says, my dad played baseball in college and played left field.
Nice.
He jumped against the wall to catch a ball, and a 4-inch bolt went through his knee, ending his baseball career.
Ouch. Oh, God. And I mean, again, I know this is super late, but text us back on Tuesday. Did he take legal action? And if that is true, or I'm not saying if that is true, if that's the way it went down, he took legal action. Did he win? Because this is a great way to really gauge if Darren Ruff has a case here, because these are the type of situations that really boil down if they're going to be able to win in the court of law. So let us know.
And some wrestling picks for Saturday night. The first one says, my picks is Cena, main event Jey Uso, one word, 4 letters, yeet.
Yeet.
Seth and Braun, Priest, and I think they add a 5th match tonight, which I want it to be Fatu against the new guy with Solo. Fatu wins, and the bloodline is dead finally.
I would love to see that with JC and Solo. I don't think you're going to get that just yet. I think you're going to get that more at a SummerSlam or a bigger PLE. I don't think main event is the place you really want to do
Maybe
that.
they set it up
Yeah,
for
they'll definitely
Money in the Bank.
set it up. Absolutely. I could see that happening.
The next one says, I believe Sammy will turn on Punk tomorrow like everyone else has lately to see him. Might be the so-called third member, Paul said, which will be weird to see Sammy with them.
It would be interesting, and I think that storyline-wise, it makes a lot of sense with the way that Paul Levesque likes to build these stories, or at least the production teams like to with the WWE, so I wouldn't be surprised. My counter to this, since we're all kind of in the same boat, let's say CM Punk makes his own faction, who's going to be in that? Or maybe CM Punk joins up with the potential group that is going to be the new Bullet Club. Because let's not forget, Roxanne Perez and CM Punk have a very close relationship as well. So maybe there's going to be a little bit of a tie in there.
It says, I know this is a reach, but any thoughts on the Indy 500, or what's your hockey picks for tonight?
Hockey picks for tonight, I'm rolling with Edmonton. I think that the Dallas Stars obviously had a great third period in game 1, but you need to stretch that into a full game. So I need to see a little bit more from them. I'm going to ride with Edmonton Oilers. Indy 500, me telling you anything would be a disservice. I apologize. I do not really watch racing very much. I know the name Max Verstappen.
Well, if you get out this weekend and are looking for something to do, go see our boy Thomas in his title match. 559 fight is tomorrow night at the Visalia Convention Center.
Yes, and if you're in attendance, come find us. We'll hopefully be down there as well.
And the final one says, if you guys are looking for something to watch that new Brett Favre documentary on Netflix.
I actually have watched it, but I need to watch it a second time because I want to actually absorb all the information. But it is. If you are a sports doc fan, highly recommend the Brett Favre one, and Shooting Guards with Gilbert Arenas on Netflix. Fantastic stuff. But that is all we got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, join us back here Tuesday next week, 7 to 9 a.m. KG will be in the building as well. This has been the Early Bird Special. Here comes Rich Eisen. Sparky, let's get out of here.